Hello, dear subscribers. So I finally made the move to the Rumble platform, and the name of the channel of this channel has been altered slightly. It's ex-Catholic without any space between the X and Catholic, so that would be a full name EXCATHOLIC, and a 6 and a 6 written immediately after ex-Catholic, so ex-Catholic 66. So today we shall be talking about let's dispel the precursor false doctrine for good. Satan doesn't need to beta test the mark of the beast. In Revelation, we have references to the adversary as that ancient serpent, an arcane, intelligent, yet evil being that doesn't think the way men do. Why? Because that ancient serpent, the adversary, or the devil, has an IQ that exceeds 1,000 or more. I've even read somewhere that fallen angels have IQs in the order of 9,000. We do not know what their IQ is, but it's certainly way, way off, way up than what a human's IQ is capable of. So to put it in context, the highest Mensa rating IQ score is currently 162 for a human being, mankind rather, should I say. And it belongs to the 11-year-old Yusuf Shah of England. He took the Mensa test and he scored the highest possible score of 162. And it also says here that Albert Einstein and Stephen Hawking are estimated to have had IQs of around 160. So putting that into context, an IQ of 162 is nothing compared to the IQ of fallen angels and Satan. So I hope that I have made that amply clear. Now to go to the respective verses. Why? Satan is probably the most intelligent created being. And we read in Revelation 12, verse 9. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So, in other versions of the Bible, we read that old serpent is that ancient serpent. Okay. Let me make a note here. Right. And we also have another reference to the ancient serpent. And once again, and he laid hold, let's backtrack. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. That old serpent, again, that ancient serpent. That ancient serpent has been around for thousands of years. He hasn't been around for a couple of years, for a couple of decades perhaps, like you and me. No, that ancient serpent has been around for thousands of years. He has had plenty of time to learn and to devise his plans for these last days. All right, so I hope I have made that clear. So, does a highly intelligent entity need to beta test the mark of the beast? No, I don't think so. Haven't his scientists, and by that I mean not all scientists, but his scientists, tested and perfected CRISPR-Cas9 on plants and on animals already before finally injecting it into humans? Yes, indeed, they have. And we read here the first genome editing technologies were developed in the late 1900s. More recently, a new genome editing tool called CRISPR, which was invented in 2009, has made it easier than ever to edit the genome. CRISPR is simpler, faster, cheaper, and more accurate than older genome editing methods. Many scientists who perform genome editing now use CRISPR, and it's so easy to administer. It can simply be extracted into a syringe attached to a hypodermic needle and be delivered through that needle. And all Satan has to do is deceive people by telling them that it is something else. That something else that begins with the letter V. So, additionally, you can imagine what can be done with that gene editing. Uh, Genes can be deleted and others can be inserted. The mark of his name, need I say what his name is? Before he was fallen, we read in Isaiah 14, "O Lucifer, how thou art fallen." Yes, and you add an ASE to that name, well, that is the mark of his name. And that has been incorporated into the genome of those who have been deceived into taking the mark. When was the nanotech first used in medicine? I hope I can pull that article up for you. Okay, never mind. Now we'll come back to this article here because we'll need to read that. So the first nanotech was used in medicine, of course. It was first used in 1990 by Sigma Tau, which is TAU Pharmaceuticals, where synthetic nanoparticles, the PEG type, were used for severe combined immunodeficiency disease. And later we learned that the quantum and the DOTS enable quantum entanglement under correct observer status and frequency. So before we go to this article that I am showing here, Revelation 19 verse 20 and other key verses in Revelation stress very strongly the word deceive. There is a very, very strong element of deception. Satan is not going to reveal his plans beforehand by beta testing them for all to see and then come along and try to deceive you. Otherwise, that would blow his cover, wouldn't it? No. Satan is the great deceiver. Satan will distract you and point his hand somewhere whilst he's doing something elsewhere. Therefore, in Revelation 19, verse 20, we read, "And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into a lake of fire burning with brimstone." He deceived them that had received the mark of the beast. He didn't beta test it. There's nothing written and here about a precursor or beta testing. No, he simply did it. He caught them unawares. And I have a verse to explain to you why he caught them unawares. But before we go to that particular verse, I will tell you, so far the adversary has managed to deceive 5.18 billion souls on this planet. The remaining on, the on and MARKED will be forced to take the mark in a deny Jesus or die for Jesus fashion. It will be a choice between those two, deny or die. Yes, Satan is a deceiver. He is not going to beta test anything and expose his plans. Again, in Revelation 18, chapter 18, and you know which verse I'm going to, verse 23, and it says, "And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth. For by thy sorceries," and you know what that translates into in Greek, pharmakia, "were all nations deceived." And there again is that word, deceived, all nations. All right? It doesn't say everyone on the planet was deceived. It says all nations, all governments were deceived and they bought merchandise from the merchants. What merchandise do these merchants sell? They sell sorcery and potions. Okay? Pharmakia. And the nations were deceived into buying it for their people. So, and again in Revelation chapter 20, verse 3, and we read, "And cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after that he must be loosed a little season." So there is that same word again. Here it says, where it says, "Cast him into the bottomless pit," you know, it's referring to that old serpent, that ancient serpent, that he should deceive the nations no more. Deceive. He's all about deception. He's all about deceiving. That's how he operates. When he comes along with the mark of the beast, he came and he caught many, 2/3 of the global population unawares. He caught them. He caught them asleep. He deceived them. He didn't come and beta test and expose his plans, because now many more people are awake than before 2020. And they wouldn't take that abomination all over again, but now it's too late. It's been delivered through deception. Okay? So, and we also read that in the same chapter in verse 10. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. As we read in Revelation chapter 14, verses 9 to 11. The smoke of their torment shall ascend. It shall ascend forever. Let me read it from the King James Version. And the smoke of their torment ascended up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Yes, the mark of his name, which we already spoke of. All right, that entity mentioned in Isaiah chapter 14, and add ASE after that name. All right? So again, the devil that deceived them. That is the common theme. Deceive, deception, deceiving, deceived. All right? And to deceive, he's yet to deceive more people. You must stay vigilant. You cannot afford to let your guard down. No, no, you cannot. Indeed. No. So we have established, number one, that Satan is a deceiver. All right. Number two, Satan is a liar. He invents lies from the pits of hell, the beta testing of the mark of the beast, and the precursor before, ahead of the mark of the beast. These are all lies because they are coming from the father of lies. What do we read in Matthew, which is a very key verse, you know, in Matthew chapter 24 and verse 43? What do we read? But notice that if the goodman of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. So the goodman of the house, the resident who lives inside the temple of God, was asleep, and the thief went in. Now, we also notice that the thief didn't beta test breaking into the house, into the temple of God. No, he got in. He broke into the house. There was no beta testing. He broke into the house once, and it's done now. It's done. Now, number three, and this will be the last point I will make. The truth is so hard to accept that most people are unable to take it in. They are unable to digest it. It is a common coping mechanism that a man or a woman denies the truth when it comes along, when it's a very hard, tough truth. So, I'm going to take you through this article. It's written by this person here. And he says here that he does counseling and psychotherapy practice in Atlanta. So he's a psychotherapist. And we're going to understand how a man or a woman denies the truth as a coping mechanism called denial. And in our case, we have several members in the Christian community who are denying that that the abomination is the mark of the beast because close family members have taken the mark of the beast and they cannot digest it, they cannot stomach it, they cannot take it in, they cannot accept it. Okay, so I'm going to skip to the 4 denials of responsibility, and you're going to understand how these four denials are typical responses that you may get from someone you confront for past inappropriate behavior or for not accepting the truth. They are common barriers that prevent people from fully accepting responsibility for their actions and for accepting the truth. So, the first denial is the denial of fact. This is the person's refusal to acknowledge that an inappropriate act even occurred. So in this case, they are denying that this inappropriate act of Satan deceiving their loved ones and of having received the mark of the beast. He or she is likely to say such things: "It never happened, you're wrong, your allegation is not true, it is just a precursor." Oh, they are just beta testing. So the first level of acceptance is for the person to acknowledge that the problem is a real one. But instead, they are denying the fact. They are deferring it into the future. A precursor, something that has yet to happen. They are deferring it to the future. The second denial is denial of impact. This is the attempt by the person you confront to minimize the importance of the event you are bringing to their attention. In this case, that the abomination is in fact the mark of the beast, and with it, it brings the damnation of the soul, because they will be tormented forever and ever in the presence of the Lamb and the holy angels, as we have just read. So, let me backtrack a moment. This is the attempt by the person you confront to minimize the importance of the event you are bringing to their attention. Yes, by deferring it into the future, in this case, by saying it's a precursor, it's yet to come, and it's a beta test. At this stage, a person is likely to make statements such as, "It's no big deal, it's just a precursor, don't be so sensitive, you're making a mountain out of a molehill." All right? They are trying to make themselves feel comfortable by, again, projecting this problem by putting it into the future. They deny that it's happening right now in the present. These are all examples of how a person may downplay the importance of the problem he or she caused. The second level of acceptance is for the person to admit that the problem or infraction not only exists, but that it is serious. And we know how serious it is just by reading Revelation chapter 14, verses 9 to 11. And then we also read Revelation chapter 20, okay, verses 3 and then verse 10. Number 3, the third denial is denial of accountability. This is an attempt to avoid responsibility for a misdeed, in our case, for taking the abomination, through some sort of explanation that the circumstance was somehow out of the person's control. Listen to this carefully. "I was stressed out. I had too much to drink. I was in a bad mood." Now let's add some more relevant situations. "It was taking it or my job. I had to travel to see my parents. I had to take it because I wouldn't be allowed acceptance into university," are all examples of attempts to deny responsibility for the problem. You've heard this over and over and over again, all right? Sometimes the person will even try to say, "You brought the damage on yourself. You made me hit you." The third level of acceptance is for the person to assume full responsibility for the inappropriate action, which in most instances we have not seen this. The last type of denial is what is called denial of hope. It takes the form of refusing to acknowledge the willingness to do the work to improve the situation. Ah, that was in the past, so there's no point in bringing it up. That's just the way I am. Nobody's perfect are all examples of how a person can try to duck responsibility for making things better. A close family member of mine, when I had warned her repeatedly not to take it, yet she took 3 of them. And when I told her, despite my warnings, you went ahead and you took it, she said, "Ah, what's done is done now. Don't keep harping about it." So, the fourth level of acceptance is for the person to actively demonstrate remorse and the desire to heal from words and actions. None. Have we seen this? Most of us haven't. So, to summarize, denial of fact says that the offense in question never happened. Denial of impact trivializes the consequences of the inappropriate behavior, in this instance, of taking the abomination. Denial of responsibility attempts to justify or excuse the behavior by saying, "Oh, I had to take it to keep my job." And denial of hope shows that the person is unwilling to take active steps to make things better. It's those type of persons that whatever you tell them, nothing seems to get in between into the gray matter that's between their ears. Put this all together and you are likely to hear some version of the following 4 denials from a person you confront. "It didn't happen like that. It's no big deal anyway. It wasn't even my fault. I was forced, you know. I was coerced. And besides, there's nothing that can be done about it." Yes. Yes, if you had the choice between taking it or the job, you would, you would, if you were awake and if you were awake and you weren't lusting for worldly cares, you would have chosen not to take it, and you would have surrendered your job or whatever it was at the time that you had to surrender. Everybody had to surrender something when it came on scene. Now, as I said, and I will not go any longer. Remember, 5.18 billion souls on this planet were coerced, were deceived into taking it. Now, the remaining 1/3 approximately of the global inhabitants will be forced to take the mark in a deny or die for Jesus fashion. Prepare yourselves. I hope I will be making a video about this choice that all of us will have to make in the very near future. As always, I will be attaching links, which I think you need to see. And if you see this on this, I will be putting a link, the first part of the video on YouTube, and attach a link to this Rumble channel here. Have a blessed day, all of you. And finally, one last thing. Please, if you haven't come to the Lord Jesus Christ, now is the time to do so. There is simply no time to lose. If you don't have Jesus Christ in your heart, then it's going to be very hard to deny, to choose to die for Christ. Okay? And not take the mark. Therefore, we read in Romans chapter 10 verse 13, "Whosoever calleth upon the name of the Lord shall be saved." And remember, be of good cheer, for the Lord has overcome the world. God bless you all.